Bienvenidos a este nuevo proyecto de Té de Lobo, donde semana a semana te estaremos presentando lo que pasa detrás del cine. Con un presupuesto de 64 millones de dólares, uno de los repartos más espectaculares y técnicas cinematográficas que revolucionaron la forma de hacer ciencia ficción, esta semana te presento The Matrix, película de 1999 protagonizada por Keanu Reeves. Mi nombre es Wendy Alvarado, comenzamos.
Whoa. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
The Matrix es una película llena de robots, kung fu y acción alocada, con influencias del cine japonés, los cómics y el anime. Antes de empezar con el rodaje de la película, los actores tuvieron que pasar varios meses entrenando con expertos en artes marciales, lo cual no fue nada sencillo ya que ninguno de ellos lo había hecho antes. De hecho, hubo algunos actores que sufrieron lesiones tanto en las prácticas como en las escenas de riesgo.
The movie takes place in another time and another place with unbelievable visual and special effects.
The Matrix is a science fiction film, but it's also an action-adventure film. You see things that are fantastic. And you say, well, wait a second, that's impossible.
Freeze it. When they explained to me the kind of movie that they were trying to make, I got really fired up about it because nobody's made this kind of movie before.
Synthesizing evolution, acting in the construct, giving flesh to a cartoon, soul to a machine.
The movie takes place somewhere in the distant future. It is a time when computers rule the world.
You have a world of people who believe they're real, but actually they're not. They're living inside a computer program, and there are a number of other people within that who are trying to liberate those people from their captivities.
It's about the idea of we take everything for granted.
And other times it feels like it's about hope and love and belief.
It's about robots versus kung fu.
And there's some crazy action.
Sydney's a beautiful town. I gotta tell you, I've never seen nothing quite like it.
What unemployed actor wouldn't want 5 months in Australia?
That's better.
Filming on a location in Sydney is actually a pleasure. We're in a great city that's got a lot to offer and a very professional crew.
Well, here we are in Sydney in a beautiful new facility. This stage is literally brand new. We're the first movie in the stage. And we moved in here to build these sets. The paint was wet on the walls. I mean, it literally, do not touch the walls, they're wet.
Powder all backlit.
Is it okay if I kind of come forward?
It's always a difficult thing to ask anybody where do you get your ideas from. Nobody knows. They just sort of happen. A friend of ours asked us to come up with a concept for a comic book. We like kung fu movies.
We like Japanimation.
We like,
John Woo movies.
Dick and books that are, science fiction that is about the sort of nature of reality.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
What's interesting about the whole idea of cyberpunk is that it's a great way to create a sense of alienation and disconnection and alternate worlds being caught in sort of these quasi-dream, quasi-conscious states.
Or you want me up like this? That's the one. That's the look.
I first met Larry and Andy when I read Assassin, and it really was an incredible script. It was a very dark, edgy piece of material, and I really was impressed with that style. And they showed me this animated Japanese cartoon, and they said, we want to do that for real. And, you know, and that was an incredible idea to me. I mean, to actually see that animation come to life, and believe me, essentially it has.
We've had our eye on you for some time now, Mr. Anderson. In one life, you're Thomas A. Anderson, program writer for a respectable software company. The other life is lived in computers, where you go by the hacker alias Neo and are guilty of virtually every computer crime we have a law for.
I play a man named Thomas Anderson who's looking for a man named Morpheus who's played by Lawrence Fishburne. I'm searching for the answer to a question. The question is, what is the Matrix? My character feels that the answer to this question will somehow make sense of his life.
At last. My character is called Morpheus. And Morpheus is a person who lives in the real world. And he's the leader of this band of people looking for the one.
You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind.
He is this, like, fevered missionary guy. He's a zealot. We think there's something dangerous about people who believe they have the truth, and they do sort of act blindly.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
There's a couple references to Alice in Wonderland in the movie. I think that is a brilliant book. She comes into this world, and there are all this craziness, and people just give her things and say, eat this, drink this, and everything affects her and changes her, and nothing makes sense, nothing's logical. It's the way you have to do it, and we tried to do that with the beginning of the film.
The thing that I love about Trinity is that I'm portraying someone who's really, really strong and who has a real mission and a real purpose.
Can you fly that thing?
Not yet.
Operator.
Tank, I need a pilot program for a B-212 helicopter. She's a warrior, yet I don't think that she's lost being a woman.
Lieutenant. Oh, shit. Agent Smith is the law enforcement, and he's a seemingly invincible machine who develops these wonderful human frailties.
There was an accident. Goddamn car accident. Cypher was a strong disciple of Morpheus. But now I've had second thoughts. Did he tell you why he did it? Why you're here? Jesus. What a mind job. So you're here to save the world.
You go from the 150 to...
Speaking about Larry and Andy together as a pair, as a team of writers, I liken them to the Brothers Grimm. I have to imagine that that's what the Brothers Grimm were like.
Oh, God.
Somebody's going to be here. We're going to have a...
They work very well together. They've got a wonderful sense of humour. So you do get a dialogue happening that is normally just within the one director's head. So it's normally one director talking to themselves, working out a problem and then expressing their solution to that problem. Whereas with Larry and Andy, you'll see the dialogue going on.
They're just like real guys, and there's none of that kind of Hollywood thing is not evident at all. You know, they're from Chicago, you know. They wear shorts, they wear baseball hats, they watch basketball games, they love movies, they love, you know, they get so excited. There's nothing greater than doing a scene for them and for them to get excited.
Monday, I will no longer just be a computer nerd. I will be a superhero. They seek and search for clarity. They're very thoughtful, and yet they're very. They have a wonderful sense of humor.
It's really, you know, unusual that directors are so sure of what they want. They write the script, they know exactly what they want, they know exactly what angle they want to see it at, what the actor should say, how he should turn, when he takes the breath in his speech. I mean, they know it exactly.
The brothers had storyboards of fight sequences that they wanted to see, certain, you know, punches and kicks and flips that they wanted to see. I see some of the framing of, you know, Frank Miller. There are some Japanese angles and perspectives in it.
Dodge this.
They worked with people that they knew from the comic book world and designed these fantastic things.
We went into the first Warner Brothers story meeting, and they said, okay, now we know we've bought something cool. We don't know what it is.
Could you just take us through it once?
They helped translate the movie for us. Nobody really understood the level of the action that we wanted in the action sequences, and then when we'd show the storyboards, people would go, oh, geez.
The scale you can pull off in comics is just always fantastic. You can freeze a moment and make an image that's sort of sustained. There's some action I think you can do a lot better in comics. There's some things that work better in film. Kung Fu is great on film.
Now, I'm supposed to start with these operation programs first. That's Major Butter and shit. Let's do something a little more fun. How about combat training?
Jiu-jitsu. I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu.
And action!
Too close.
Or just throw your chest out. Bring it down.
We wanted to do the action differently, and one of the things that we love about Hong Kong action is the way that they shoot fight scenes with long takes and wider angles. But they also do this wire work, which is, it's very fluid, and people, you know, fly around and jump incredibly. It's very balletic, and everybody has a superhuman and supernatural grace. We wanted to bring that kind of wire work to our movie.
You don't have to go up so high like you're reaching for. More out. This looks better. Yeah.
When I first became involved, Larry and Andy were a little frustrated because their dream was to work with this guy that had done Fist of Legend. And through contacts in Hong Kong, we tracked the guy down, turned out to be Wu Ping.
Wu Ping rocks. He's
is one of the best. We love his movies. We've been watching them for years. I think it's a good for Lawrence.
He said, I really don't know how they got my number and about me. All that he knew is he was in Beijing making a movie and got a call from Hong Kong saying that the two brothers were really interested in talking to him. He said, I'm very busy, I don't have the time. And then the call came again. He read the script and he thought that script was a very brilliant script. So he decided that he should do it.
One of the incredible experiences on this movie, and unlike any other movie I've done, is that our four leads spent 3 to 4 months training with Wu Ping and his Hong Kong stunt team.
These aren't athletes, they're actors. You know, when you want someone to paint your house, you hire a painter, not an actor who makes believe he's a painter. And they really had to learn a fighting style that they never had learned before. It was a tremendous hardship, but it is evident on the film when you see it that that's Lawrence and that's Carrie Ann and that is Keanu in those scenes doing that stuff, and it's astounding.
We started training in October of '97. Trained all the way through till March of '98. That was on like an everyday basis.
1, 2, 3, come on!
It was a very involving, exhausting process, which I initially thought we were going to be doing Kung Fu for maybe 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. And it ended up being months and months of training.
The interesting thing is in the challenge. And the challenge is how we can make these people look as though they know they are born with the skills.
We had to build a set which was about 18 inches wide, I think, 6 foot deep and about 46 feet high. It was a really odd-shaped set.
Since it was dark on the camera side, the light had to come through the top. And it had to go 4 stories and still hold its intensity without being super bright at the top and being nothing at the bottom. As they get lower, more and more lights come on, so that it looks like it's the same light, but it's actually intensifying enormously.
Go!
Physical effects had to build all of this lathe and plaster so it could break away. The stunt guys had to come in there and needed to be able to control the actors, or at least their doubles, in this kind of in a controlled descent mode.
The fight in the bathroom is much scrappier than any of the other fights because it's in a confined space.
We built a very basic flat-edge set, and then Wu Ping and his team went in there and rehearsed it. And it started off at one size, and eventually it was kind of like half the size. And they just rehearsed in it and figured out what they wanted.
So it was a much more brutal Western-style fight, if you like.
There were a few trouble spots. I have allergies, and it was in a warehouse, and it was really dusty. They kept putting the power dust on us, that white stuff that they covered me with. So I was sneezing uncontrollably.
I remember changing camera angles a little bit. At one stage, we had to change a few little bits of the fight. I had to block a shot from Lawrence.
Hugo's punching Lawrence's fist as he's trying to throw a punch. He steps and punches the punch. And it was very split-second timing. They did it a couple times, and then it was the third take. Wham! They hit fists, and you heard this like sort of crack, snapple crack. It was just like,
I'm sorry. I thought I'd broken my wrist one day, and it blew up, and so lots of little things like that. It was actually all right in the end.
I think I hit Hugo in the chest at some point.
And I got kicked in the ribs, and both my ribs were cracked. But that was something, again, I didn't discover somewhere down the track. But it was a kind of dirty, you know, dirty fight. Oh, well, very early on in training, in fact, on day 2, I thought I'd done something to my leg. So we went to see a very good doctor. In fact, it was Keanu's doctor, who immediately diagnosed that I had this thing that I couldn't walk, and I had an edema in my bone marrow. And I had an operation and was on crutches for 6 weeks and slowly recuperated and kind of came back into training again.
It's funny because he had the hip and I had the neck. So it became how's the hip and how's the neck?
This isn't a dojo, it's a hospital, it's a trauma.
You're doing it for pain. You like that little bit of pain.
No, it was no pain at all.
Was that general?
It was
local?
Spinal.
Spinal, okay.
So I watched the whole thing.
You saw the...
Yeah, I watched the operation.
Ew! That man is crazy.
Because you can't feel a thing. So it's like someone just doing this thing to this leg.
It's not part of
It's
you.
not yours. They were lifting my leg up and I was going, that's my leg, but I can't feel it. And there was a whole thing about what were we going to do? Was I going to be out of the film? Was I going to stay in the film? Were we going to put all the fights back to the end of the shoot? Which is what we eventually did.
This whole training process for us, it was real trauma for our bodies the first time around. And I think that was just Hugo's body's way of responding to it. You know?
Hey, what's happening?